I keep coming back to this word mechanically. Just mechanically, how is Bitcoin replacing fiat? We already have transitional checking accounts, transitional savings accounts, transitional investing retirement accounts, and that's today in 2021 heading into 2022. Yes, we're early, but yes, things are happening very fast, and I don't want people to be complacent. I want people to just be very excited about the moment and realizing kind of the gravity of just Bitcoin taking over. First off, cheers, dude. Cheers.
Good to see you, man.
Dude, George Mekhail. Cheers. In our natural habitat, at a bar, talking about Bitcoin.
I feel like we've done this before.
As you should be. Yes, many times, which we'll get to. But before we hit record, you were telling me you just left your day job.
Yes.
So let's start exactly on that.
So I just took a position with BTC Inc., which is the company that runs Bitcoin Magazine and the Bitcoin Conference.
Yeah.
As a director of marketing for the conference. So
Perfect.
Gearing up for Miami in April.
Miami in April.
Yep.
See you all there.
Definitely come.
So you have been a mortgage broker for a lot of your life.
Yeah.
What I want to talk about that is this like Bitcoin mortgage idea.
Yep.
Mechanically, are we going to beat the final boss, George Mekhail?
So I think credit really is like the mechanical part of the mortgage concept, because it really comes down to risk assessment. We live in a world where your FICO score, like it or not, matters, right? And I think that the key thing with a mortgage product around Bitcoin is to eliminate that aspect of it. Because what we need to do, I think in order to move the ball forward, is empower Bitcoiners who have all this wealth stored in Bitcoin to acquire real estate.
Yes.
Right now, if you're a Bitcoiner and you're sitting on a bunch of coins, and let's say like you're this early retiree OG status Bitcoiner, you don't have actually a credit profile, traditional credit profile in most cases, where you can go to a bank or a mortgage lender and get approved for a loan relative to your wealth. You can probably get some mortgage, but like most traditional banks don't even look at Bitcoin as an asset on your balance sheet. So I think that the key thing, and the kind of the phrase I've been using is, Bitcoin is your credit worthiness, right? Not your FICO score. It's like the fact, are you willing to put Bitcoin up as collateral? Cool. You can have as much fiat as you want for all I care. Like, I know, like there's solutions already that are lending against Bitcoin. I get that. But I think real estate is a different thing to try to solve, because frankly, there's just so many regulations around it. And so I think we have to create a product that someone is willing to basically cross-collateralize a piece of real estate with Bitcoin, so that if you default, you're basically putting both up as collateral. But it very much serves as a way to transition into this new reality where we no longer have to rely on FICO. Your FICO score doesn't matter. Because it's the proof of work is in the fact that you have Bitcoin, right? And that's more valuable to me than looking at your W-2. What does your W-2 show me? What does your pay stub doesn't even really tell me your future potential of paying on time. That's an old, antiquated way of thinking about things. Whereas now, if you hold Bitcoin, if you're a Bitcoiner, that tells me basically, as a creditor, I would say, it tells me all I need to know about your credit worthiness. So I think I don't know if that like sort of addresses the mechanical aspect of it, but that's kind of where my head goes.
So again, is there enough happening around this?
I think that in a lot of ways, the way I see the mortgage sort of product evolving is it's a way to allow Bitcoiners to actually put their Bitcoin to use without spending it. So it kind of hits on both of these targets.
Transitionary tool.
Exactly. There's not enough conversations around this. There's not enough movement around this. Again, there's lending products, but the real estate market is again, heavily regulated, and it kind of, you start running into a lot of different issues. I think one of the main things is eliminating sort of the home lending sort of regulatory framework, because it's just way too cumbersome. And again, you fall into all of the old paradigms of, all right, what's your FICO score? And I need to establish an ability to repay and all that kind of stuff, which like, it's all just garbage. It doesn't actually protect the consumer, which is what it's allegedly designed to do. What we need is a program that's specifically targeted at Bitcoiners, because part of my thesis is that as numbers go up, the first major purchase that Bitcoiners are going to want to make is real estate. When numbers go up, I'm looking at Zillow, right? So we need to be able to facilitate that. Like, I actually don't even care about creating a mortgage product for normies, though I think that the existence of a Bitcoin mortgage product will actually onboard normies to Bitcoin. So like in lending, one of the hardest financial profiles to lend to are self-employed people, people who have their own businesses, because they can't cleanly document a steady source of income. And because they're actually incentivized to report as little income as possible in their tax returns. So they kind of shoot themselves in the foot when it goes to lending, right? And so the same is true of anybody who is not W-2 employed. It's really hard to establish a proof of here's how much money I make, therefore here's what I can afford. So when Bitcoin becomes your credit worthiness, the entire game changes. And that's the other thing too right now is it's like, why is it that you can qualify to rent a house where your monthly payment's gonna be $3,000 a month, but you can't take that same financial profile and go get a mortgage where your payment's gonna be $3,000 a month? Doesn't make any sense. So there's no sense of fairness or consistency or anything like that with the current model. Whereas with Bitcoin, it's just very, very simple. Put up your Bitcoin, and I'll give you a percentage of that.
So I have a Roth IRA, smash a bunch of sats into it. I turn 59 and a half, 30 years from now. I want to buy a house with those Roth IRA sats withdrawn in kind. I'm in the clear because it was in a Roth that entire time. I now want to buy a house with that Bitcoin, so no penalty on that. What happens? I go out and I hire a realtor that kind of understands, with me philosophically, and we find a private person, and I say, hey, this is the currency I'm going to pay you in. Do you accept that part of the contract?
So obviously the seller needs to want to accept Bitcoin. That's the first. That's the first hurdle. Other than that, I don't know much about the sort of the implications on the retirement side, but if it's just a two-party transaction where it's essentially cash, depending on what state you're in, you're going to have an attorney present if it's an attorney state or escrow company facilitate it. You're going to want to get title insurance to make sure that you are acquiring a property with clear title. You don't even really need a real estate agent. That's just an extra. But yeah, I think the appraisal issue is one that becomes interesting when you in an all cash transaction. It really depends on if it's more of a buyer's market or a seller's market. Right now, obviously, most buyers are waiving appraisals because sellers don't want them. So yeah, I think something could be worked out between those two parties to just facilitate that transaction. The biggest hurdle would be the seller.
So say I wanted to deliver pesos.
Yeah, you'd have a hard time.
Yeah, but so it'd be probably harder to find another person that would accept the pesos.
Right.
But again, in both situations, if it's a private contract between those two people, I can deliver the payment, and if they agree to the terms, there's nothing stopping me from delivering the payment how I want. Then let's talk about that, of how the big dollar transactions, then we start to get more and more happen.
Right. Well, and you start seeing sort of the chess match that's playing out. Where Janet Yellen says, I'm going to tax unrealized gains because they're trying to be 3 steps ahead of us and realizing, you actually don't have to spend your Bitcoin. You can use a Roth or you can use a Bitcoin-backed loan, and you're not technically spending it, so it's not creating a taxable event. We got to tax that still because we're losing all this revenue. And so I think that that's going to be the battle line, right? And the battle lines are being drawn.
Hard pivot. Let's talk about the social layer, and let's talk about meetups, and let's talk about the state of kind of Bitcoiners, knowing each other.
Yeah, we need to know each other, and I think joining a local meetup is probably the most important thing Bitcoiners can do. What's happening in the world right now is, I'm like you. I try to stay positive. I try not to get too into the weeds of the doomsday and the apocalypse stuff that's coming down the pipeline. But when supply chains start breaking down and when we can't get the goods that we're used to getting and we don't know sort of who to reach out to when we need help. This is where community comes in. And I don't know about you, but over the last 4 or 5 years, it's been Bitcoiners for me. It's getting to know other Bitcoiners. And like when I moved, who did I reach out to? I called my Bitcoin friend.
No, I love this. So George used to come to the Orange County meetup. We would hang out every single Thursday. George and Bitcoinez was a big part of why OC Bitcoin Network was able to meet every single Thursday for all of 2020. And then when him and his family just made their transition over here to Arizona, there immediately was already infrastructure. There's already infrastructure and a meetup here, and now George is able to help add to that infrastructure here, and that fires me up.
Yeah, check this out. So I was born in Cairo, Egypt, to a Coptic Orthodox Christian home, right? It's 10% of the population is Coptic Christian, 90% is Muslim. When my family immigrated to America when I was 4 years old, where we ended up landing was the place that was closest to a Coptic community, right? And so that immediately, it was turnkey. We plugged in. It's we were a family, right? And that's what it feels like moving to Arizona with my Bitcoin community. I know it sounds weird, but that's the analogy I draw. It's that feels like when I, back then.
So the Coptic community and how it works. Did you end up doing business with other people in the cockpit community?
Everything. This is who you reach out to when you need a job, when you need a place to live. Even like romantic relationships get introduced like through here. Like these are your people. And so of course, like that was the first thing I did when I moved to Arizona, was look up the local meetup and start plugging in and start getting to know people, right? Like I've only been out in a few weeks, but already it's like, dude, I got my haircut the other day and I got the connection through a Bitcoin friend of mine and I paid in Bitcoin at the end of the trip. So like that's the life I'm trying to cultivate, is where it's in real life Bitcoin. It's the enfleshment of Bitcoin. It's taking it offline and meeting it in real life.
That's where we're gonna leave it. Like, you move to a new city, you meet the Bitcoiners, you pay for your haircut in Bitcoin. That's where we're leaving it, because that is the circular economy. Tonight, we're buying pizza from a place called Classic Crust. They run OpenNote. They take Bitcoin. Hey, do you wanna get paid in dollars? Do you wanna get paid in Bitcoin? Hey, I wanna get paid in Bitcoin. Oh, okay. The circular economy is here today. Like, Bitcoin is here today.
Yep.
Facts.
That's it. Mic drop.
Hey all, this is Brian. You can reach me on Twitter @BrainHarrington. Shoot me a DM with any feedback from today's episode. This has been a Choice App production. Bitcoin is becoming centric to personal finance, and we want to help you learn how to better engage with Bitcoin financial services. None of this is financial advice and is for education and entertainment only.